when last we left our brave companions of Circulus Vitae. Uh, the group, having joined Lanis on an effort to track down her father as a part of an ongoing quest to try and find the truth behind the Tenangrio, the weapon that has bound her to the pact with her patron. Given an opportunity potentially through the weapon itself, having spoken to her rather, offering freedom in return for helping to find whoever this mysterious voice was. Lanis had journeyed to Halrua with her companions, connecting with Sindra Sylvain for some help, who in turn connected them with a friend of hers, an associate, by the name of Azariel, a bit of a scholar and a perhaps expert in this area. Having secured the use of a skyship and connecting with another artificer associate of Azariel's, the group was able to create a hound, a arcane focus that basically acted as a compass and pointed them in the direction of the one person who might be able to help Lanis with information about the blade, that being her own father, the one who started, or the original holder of the weapon, as far as she knew. The group used the airship, and despite a little bit of turbulence, a flock of wyvern, which creatures that don't normally flock, impacting with the skyship on part of the journey, the group managed to fend them off. The skyship taking some amount of damage to the sails and crystals and the hull itself. The group still managed to bring it in to a safe landing in the vicinity of Prosker, towards the center of the Forgotten Realms. But this place was both the indicated location from the magical hound that Lanis held, as well as the scenery matching some of the clues that Quinn had managed to come across in the scrying she did, where they first identified that Han, Lanis's father, was in fact still alive. As the group disembarked the airship, which grounded itself in its landing for its damaged state, Athelion hit it with a hallucinatory terrain to keep it out of the eyes of passers-by. The group, by means of summoned mounts, rode the rest of the distance that was indicated, bringing them into some of the rolling countryside of Prosker, outside of the city of Prosker itself, town rather. The group found their way to a somewhat dilapidated homestead in the countryside that seemed very much to be that Quinn saw, the same one that Quinn saw in her scrying. With some amount of trepidation, Lanis led the rest up to the porch and knocked upon the door, calling for Tan Stetson, which caused something of a confusion from the voice that entered inside, and then the older man who opened the door was stunned to see what he thought was his wife standing there, referring to Lanis as Lara, and this led to a reunion that was filled with a combination of accusations, anger, understanding, remorse, grief, a variety of moments as Lanis tried to find out from her father, and convincing him, first of all, that she was his son Lank, and then trying to pull some information from Tan to understand, what happened. The older man told a story of how he was tricked into basically saying that he would give anything to provide a better life for his son. Unfortunately, the person that he swore that to in his cups was, uh, as far as one can assume, an infernal agent. For when he returned back to his hovel, his wife, Laura, a beautiful and kind woman, was gone, and in her place was simply the blade, at that time the size of a dagger, with their small child. There was some mutual blame, first a blurting of grief from Tan that it was Lanis's fault that she was gone, and then an acceptance on his part that it was actually him, and that he felt like a fool and was embarrassed and grief-stricken for the loss that he caused. As the two were beginning to warm up to conversation with one another, there came a knock at the door and a shouting for Jason, who Tan explained was the name he was known by in these parts, that no one called him Tan here. He was not known by that, which is why Lanis's original call for him had him alarmed. Answering the door, Lanis found two individuals on the porch, a man and a woman, one of them carrying a cloth-wrapped bundle under his arm, both of them wearing bluish robes, which seemed more fit to a traveling clergy or monk of some sort, or perhaps a merchant. They seemed somewhat ascetic. The Lanis noticed they were asking for Jason and demanding that they see him, that they needed to speak with him. Lank asked who they were, and noticing that they seemed to be wearing clothes that really weren't, they were more costume than clothing, and that they were obscuring parts of their face with makeup. Lanis used a bit of prestidigitation to remove the makeup from the woman's face, revealing, blowing back her hood, revealing her bald head and the tattoos upon her forehead and top of her skull, which were reminiscent of those of a wizard of Thay. And that is where we left things off last time, and where we pick up today. So as the woman, anger in her eyes, grabs at the hood and pulls it back over her head, she narrows her eyes at Lanis and hisses in anger. The man next to her puts a hand out, perhaps judging the state of both Lanis and the blade, and Leonidas, who looms over behind Lanis, somewhat imposingly. The man says, "I'm sorry, but this is Jason's house. Yet, is it not? Or has he moved on?"
Where is this guy's hand? What is he doing? Oh, he's going to.
He put a hand to still his
Oh.
companion, to keep her from making an aggressive action.
Why are you here? Why do you pose this ruse upon this man?
He squints a little bit. "There is no ruse. We have business with Jason. He both owes us money, and we are making a delivery. Who are you to ask?"
I am the new master of the house. You can give it to me.
"Master, mistress, I'm afraid that our dealings are with Jason, and I don't know you. Is Jason here?"
I will relay a message to Jason.
"Afraid that simply won't do. Jason," he calls over your shoulder, "come now. Are these people here with you?" You see the woman kind of, her knuckles are white as she clenches her fist at the side of her robes, but doesn't seem to take any other action beyond glaring at Lanis.
Just one moment, please, and I will look up at Leonidas, and I'm going to go in the back for a minute, and I'm going to go
He's
to
going back
I
into
di-
the house.
yeah. I'm going to try to. I'm going to tell Tan. These people are no good. There is probably going to be an incident. I don't want you harmed. Is there a safe place in here? Is there a basement, cellar?
He looks at you. It's a very simple hovel. Thank. Uh, they, they are here for me. Uh, I
What do they
I
want?
I owe them money, and they have. And give me a perception check. Actually, no. I'm sorry. Insight check. Yeah. Okay. He just looks worried. Um. Um. No, but they're not.
Quick, white.
They're not the kind of people you want to get upset.
We've dealt with their kind before. Why do you owe them? What did you do?
He continues to. He looks away in shame.
It doesn't matter. They're not getting it from you today. Okay? Just go someplace safe. A center room or something.
So the homestead is basically this room, the main room you're in, which both doubles as kind of a living area and dining area. There's apparently looks to be a small bedroom connected to the back and a small area that is designated for kitchen cooking. It's not a large homestead. So
Okay.
basically, there doesn't look to be a back door. It's just the front door. There are windows, so if worst comes to worst, he could go out a window.
Yeah, I'll tell them just uh, go into the kitchen area and shut the shutters if you have any.
What will you do?
I'm going to take care of this business.
What do you mean take care of it?
I'll take care of it, Father.
And he give me a persuasion check. You can have advantage on this. Okay. He looks at you as if he's about to protest a bit more, then just kind of hangs his head and moves over to the kitchen area. He moves to a chair that's near the wall and kind of pushes the chair with its back against it and sits down so that if someone were to look in the front window, they wouldn't be able to see him. Leonidas, while this is going on, you looking at these other two, um, the man looks you up and down and says, "A paladin, are we? You a knight? In service to whom, may I ask?"
Lathander.
"Ah, the Lord of the Dawn. How delightful. So, what brings you all the way out here, good knight? I don't believe there are any temples of Lathander or missions that I'm aware of in the neighboring area."
We have business.
"Well, I can appreciate business. My companion and I, are merchants ourselves, and we are in the process of making a delivery, that is all. But the delivery also comes with payment for the last one, and it's our expectation to have the money now so we can be on our way."
How much does he owe you?
Give me an insight check.
Mm-hmm.
16? All right. There's a slight pause before he says, 500 gold. You have the sense that that pause was consideration, but you're not certain. He seems
Right.
pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Lanis, at this time, you return back to the door.
Is there a package you say you had to give Jason?
So he's holding under one of his arms, the crook of his arm, what looks to be something about the size of a small chest wrapped in cloth. You would guess it's like a small strong box in size, maybe about a foot by 6 inches by 6. And his eyes kind of glance down at that for a second at the back and says, "Yes, we have an ongoing arrangement with Jason. He is one of our stops here along the trail."
I see. Well, he's not home at the moment. Like I said, I'm the new mistress of the homestead, and we're all taking care of his place while he's gone.
Give me a deception check. Are you now? He glances her over and then says, "There's something of a... No, I don't see it. Perhaps the eyes. So, where is Jason, then? I would much prefer to have this conversation directly with him."
Unfortunately, that cannot happen today. Like I said, he is out of town, not home.
And when do you
Any
expect him back?
business will be done with myself.
When do you expect him back?
I would say in another 10 day.
Very interesting. He glances at his companion, who's still glaring daggers at Lanis, but she's a smaller woman. She's maybe 5'3", so Lanis is a good foot on her in height. So she's looking up at Lanis as she's giving her the eye and fidgeting a bit in place. The two of you get a sense that she's not used to being restrained when it comes time to negotiate. Yeah. But the other gentleman says, "I've never known Jason to travel. It's one of the reasons we've enjoyed his patronage and support in this region. Have things gone badly for him of late?"
Oh, no. There's just unforeseen circumstances, crop up now and again. Have to take care of business, so. I've known him for a long time, and he trusts me, so. Looking out for his home while he's gone.
Interesting.
Will you
Give
be
me-
back within the 10 day?
I am afraid that we are passing through this part of the region now. We will not be back for at least until the next month at least. It would be very inconvenient for us to avoid or have to return back to this place. It would take us... No, it's not acceptable. Go ahead and make me a persuasion check real quick.
Getting there.
Okay, yeah. He seems to consider for a moment and then says, "I have a sense that you can be trusted with this. I will have to, of course, insist upon the payment at this time. I can leave this month's delivery with you, with the assurance you will give it to Jason upon his return, and the message, of course, that should any of it go missing, or should we not be compensated on our next trip through, there will, of course, be understandable consequences."
Interesting. He did not make me privy of these exchanges. Will the next one also be 500 gold? Does it vary on what is exchanged?
No, he was currently in some measure of arrears with us. The usual is less, but he has racked up an amount that must be dealt with at this time. And you see the woman smile thinly.
Let me see if I can cover that expense. Just one moment. And I'll duck back in and let's see. I'll whisper to Well, does everybody hear what's going on outside?
The rest of the people in the building can hear a conversation going on, but it's kind of low voices. No one's yelling, so they're not really getting a lot of the back and forth. They can definitely tell that it's a calm conversation, and they can hear your side of things a little bit better since you're standing in the door.
I'm going to like huddle everybody real quickly, whisper, my father owes 500 gold to these people in exchange for whatever the guy is carrying. Do we?
Have you actually confirmed that with your father?
That's a good question. I'll go to father real quick. Do you owe 500 gold? That's what they're saying at the door.
He looks up at you and his eyes widen for 500. That's
They said the usual
ridiculous.
payment is lower, but this time you owe 500. He might be lying. I'm not sure.
The monthly cost is 150 gold at most.
Okay.
While Lanis is having this conversation, the gentleman outside amicably looks at Leonidas. So are you a bodyguard or for hire?
For hire.
Mercenary?
No, not at this time.
He glances off to the side where Leonidas's warhorse is still tethered to a post on the porch, and says, could make use of someone with martial skill if you're interested in hire. I can afford to. My employers can pay quite well for services rendered.
What kind of services would you need?
Well, times are growing strange and dark. The roads become a little more challenging each and every 10-day. Things to the east become more challenging. The roads home. He pauses for a second and then smiles, not really tipping his hand so much since the tattoos were already revealed. He kind of drops that point intentionally. We may be returning in the next little while and could require a caravan guard of your caliber if you're interested. I can assure you a fine payday at the end of the trail.
I appreciate the offer. Thank you. If our paths happen to cross again, I will consider it, and if our paths cross again, who knows?
Good. My name is Aldrich, and should our paths cross, I will ask again. Back to Lanis.
She'll go back to the doorway.
The Aldrich, the man, looks up and says, so were you able to confirm what you needed?
Yeah, I think I did. You wouldn't imagine the pile of papers he has back there, but just to ease my mind a bit, I went through his merchant journal, and according to that, he has paid no more than $150 or 150 gold per transaction. Why now is it multiple times higher?
Give me a deception check with disadvantage. You do manage to sell that despite two very, very bad tip-offs. He pauses for a second looking at you. You hear him say under his breath, I didn't think Jason was literate. He then shrugs and says, I can't speak to Jason's accounting, but I am certain of my own. We have in our records, and in my mind, a debt of 500 gold pieces for this delivery at this time. And we are unfortunately not willing to let that pass yet another month before we return. We require payment. We require it promptly.
Is it always you two who come by the homestead to collect this debt?
He looks at you and kind of cocks his head to the side. You ask an awful lot of questions for a simple transaction.
I'm just curious because Jason didn't mention any of this to me.
Well,
I don't know if this is all a fancy ruse to get gold from an unwary customer. I don't know what is going on here.
or perhaps he knew that we were coming and stuck you with the bill.
Perhaps a bill that I am not comfortable paying.
That is unfortunate.
Unfortunate for whom?
Well, unfortunate for us in that we will be leaving less the money we come for. Unfortunate for Jason in a great many ways.
It seems like a very important thing that you have there that Jason might need. 500 gold. That is. I can pay 250 gold.
Can you now? Give me a persuasion check with disadvantage. He seems to consider the offer, looks over at his companion, who is still angrily staring, and she reaches up and she kind of pulls her hood down a bit more. And he seems to consider, his mouth twitching for a moment, and then nods to himself as if coming to an agreement. Very well. We'll take the 250 gold at this time, with the understanding that our next trip through, please communicate to Jason that he will have the balance for us at that time.
I will relay the message.
Very
Oh.
good then. We can
Go to my
leave
pouch.
this month's deposit in exchange.
I'll give him the 250 gold.
He nods to his companion, who kind of walks up to Lanis, closing the distance, and she gets more up in Lanis's face than is really necessary for this. She's obviously trying to bluster a little bit above her weight class, and she takes the coins. You can see her doing the tally as Lanis gives them to her, putting them into a heavy leather purse that she goes through. And once she has the 250, she confirms, kind of picks her chin up a little bit, and then turns back to her companion and nods her head. Aldrich then smiles and says, "Excellent." And he takes the cloth-wrapped bundle and hands it towards Lanis. "Then here you are, and we are done."
Yes, we are done here.
Very good. Well, your name I don't think I got.
The name is Lanis.
Lanis. I shall remember it.
I hope you do.
He looks back over to Lanis and says, "I do hope our paths cross again, friend." You're on mute.
Leonidas will give a slight nod. Until then.
Come, Thea. He turns, and the two of them walk off the small porch and down the small path that leads through the front of his of Jason's overgrown yard and garden to the small wagon that was parked on the road there, and they begin to climb back up into it. They seem to be in no hurry, and there's a moment where the woman like turns to him and says something, and he raises a hand to her to still her, and then the two of them make their way to the wagon, climb back up into the driver's chair, and with a small crack of the reins, the ponies begin to pull, and the wagon begins creaking off down the road.
I will immediately, as soon as they're gone, I'll immediately like unwrap it and look what the thing is.
Out here on the porch, or
I'll just step inside.
Okay, so you guys go back inside and close the door. Jason or Tan is looking very small in the chair in the corner. He's kind of, his shoulders are sunken, and he's, looking down at the floor in his boots as Leonidas closes the door and Lanis begins to unwrap the cloth bundle. There is a small, cheap chest, like cheap wood, no real bindings to it. No more than a box, really. As she goes to pull the lid off, Tan turns away, and in the box itself, Lanis, you find a series of small, oiled bags. Each of them maybe about, the size of a small purse, with a drawstring at the top. And there's maybe 20 of them in there at a guess.
Father, what is this?
He looks. It's nothing. Nothing important. Please.
It was 250 gold worth of nothing, Father. What have you been paying these people for?
Amarin, give me a perception check. It's a small room, and Lanis is not making any effort to hide what's going on here. You've seen bags like this before. Those are packages of drugs.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't want to get involved in this family drama. So Amarin's just kind of do like a shit kind of a face, and like I'm gonna look at Tan. I know his name's like a hat, right?
Yes,
Tan
Tan.
Stetson, yeah.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna look at Tan and like kind of see if I can catch his eye to give him like a knowing look. Like, come on, man.
Oh, he's looking at the floor. He's not looking up at anybody.
Yeah. Is he like not responding? Like he's not gonna say what it is?
He knows what it is. He's not. I mean,
Yeah, I just mean like
about it.
If he doesn't seem like he's gonna confess, like I'll kind of.
Yeah, he's not gonna. It's very obvious that he's too ashamed. His face is red.
Lanis.
Yeah.
Your mic cut out.
Yeah, you might cut out.
Oh, dang it. I hate this thing. Do you want me to... Also, my voice is kind of gone. I've had a cold. You can... I mean, you can open it, but...
But... I'm gonna take a smell. Like smell inside the box.
Don't do that.
All right.
Don't do that.
So Lanis
Don't do
puts her
that.
head down and takes a good inhalation. There is it smells like spice, kind of like a cinnamon and clove aroma. It's not quite that, but it has that kind of very, very potent spice smell to it. But you immediately you have this rush. It's not enough. You didn't take a hit of it, right? Whatever's in there, but it's just that secondary whiff. You
Got a
feel,
contact eye.
yeah, you feel the insides of your nostrils burn a little bit, and an immediate drowsy wooziness kind of pleasantly hits you.
You get what it is now,
And I look
Lanis?
at Amron. Yeah.
All right. I've done my job here.
Okay.
What is it?
Don't smell it! Or
It
ingest
smells-
it in any manner, please.
Oh,
Unless you want to be ingesting it and sniffing it a lot for the rest of your life and living on the streets.
That just makes me want to smell it more.
Amron, will you come outside for me real quick?
Yeah, no problem.
Lead her outside.
Tan
It
is
seems
kind
like
of
you.
scuffing his boot on the floor and like very clearly not looking at anybody. He's studying his toes.
Does he leave the drugs in the hut?
No, I took him.
Man.
Took him with me.
Quinn was going to get a high.
You'll get their chance.
Well, now Quinn's curious.
That's how it starts.
Yeah.
Okay, so I assume you knew what this is. How bad is it?
What would I know what drug?
So, and you cut out at the end of there, but so you would need to actually like get up there and get a smell and potentially see it, which you certainly can do. So Amron kind of comes over and takes one of the pouches and just opens it a little bit, and you see inside there's like a small puff of when you have a cinnamon bottle and you hit it and there's that like kind of puff of ultra fine spice. A small puff comes out and you get that whiff of the smell that I described, and you can see that it's very, very fine granules, brownish gray granules in the bag itself. And you have seen this before. It's called Hish, and it is basically it's a narcotic that'll get you like a dreamy high, very much like an opium, but it's generally snorted or inhaled, sometimes placed on the tongue. It can become very addictive, usually over time. It's not one of those things that hits you, but people build up Hish urges, and they'll get into a thing where, just like you find people chasing the dragon in opium dens like until they die, it can have that kind of long-term effect.
Okay.
But if used sparingly, it's actually a kind of delightful, dreamy, trance-like thing that sometimes shamans and like you wouldn't know that side of things, but like that's more druidic. Yours is like people in your experience
like an
use this to
ayahuasca
get away.
trip.
Right. You guys, your experience is that this is something that makes people forget about how shitty their life is on the street.
And so as far as like how bad it is, like does it like negatively impact your health? Does it, like, other than it being like obviously a thing where you end up spending all your money on it because you're addicted to it, does it hurt you?
Not in general. It can get you killed in your experience, because you've seen like people who are running the streets or whatever. If they do it while they're running a Hish high, they'll see things. They'll make misjudgments. They'll be sloppy. Like, it can get you killed in that sense. So that's probably her emotional feeling, is this stuff is just bad for you because it'll make you fuck up and that'll get you killed. If you're talking about the actual how bad is the drug, it's generally pretty harmless. But again, over time builds up a really bad addiction until people do nothing but want to stay in that high.
If you're running around while you're high, you might, run under a horse. Okay, got it. All right. So to answer your question, Lanis, all right. So this looks to be Hish, and it's. I mean, it'll make you feel good and hallucinate some fun, nice stuff, but it can get super addicting, and it seems like he's pretty deep into that. And I mean, it's just it's not good.
So on that note, if this is a month's worth delivery for him, he wouldn't be lucid, right? So
Okay.
I think Amarin would know in terms of the size of the thing here,
And selling it, maybe.
more than likely.
Yeah. Okay.
God.
Look, the amount that he got from them for just a month, he's
That's
a
a
drug
lot.
dealer. I'm. Look, this is bad. This is really bad.
What in the hells?
This is
Okay.
I'm sorry, but I've seen this. I was around this, and I avoided people like this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for your insightfulness.
Sorry.
I'll go back inside to the gang. I know we came here for a specific reason, but I'm sorry for this lingering with the drama and stuff, but I need to go talk to my father real quick. Or maybe not real quick. Who knows? Talk amongst yourselves. And I'll go back to where Tan is sitting and I'll sit next to him.
Okay.
And if he's looking at the ground, I'll like push his chin up to look at me. And
Okay.
I'll have the box open in my lap.
You kind of take a knee because there's you can yeah, okay, you grab another chair that's nearby. He only has 2 there in the entire area, and the second one looks like it's barely used, like he uses just the
Or I'll
one he's
just
sitting in.
kneel next to his chair.
Alright.
That's
All
fine.
right, so you kneel down and you have the box there on your knee, and he avoids your glance from him, but as you begin to reach him, he looks up and he meets you and meets your eyes, and that roominess that you noticed, the kind of reddish bits and the corners when you first arrived, make a little more sense in this context if he's using. He looks at you and there's nothing but shame and resignation in his face as he says, "I don't apologize for escaping."
Look, I know you've had a rough life since as long as I've been alive. I get it. I understand, but this is a lot. Please don't tell me you're using all of this stuff on yourself.
There's a moment of like shock and like, no, and then he realizes in that moment that what the alternative was, and he kind of clams up for a second and then hangs his head a bit again and says, "No, I provide the rest to some of my neighbors, others in the area. I'm a road stop."
Okay. Are you the only house that these people come to stop? Or do they stop at everybody's? Or does everybody just come over here? This is like the hub.
It's not really anything terribly organized. They once a month leave a deposit here, and those in the region who know, they come and they make a purchase from me, and I give the proceeds to the merchants when they come back around. I only know Aldrich by name. I don't know anything else about him. He's sometimes here with a woman, sometimes with another man.
Does anybody try to start trouble? Is there any conflict when these people come around?
Why would there be? They're simple merchants, obviously dealing in something a little less savory than farming equipment, but they're merchants like any others.
I'm just asking because I fear for your safety. I know that's a weird thing to say after all these years. all of the circumstances that took place, but oh, man, a lot of memories have just come rushing back, and I don't know how to process them. I'm just concerned for you. First of all, I didn't even know you were alive still. I had no. I mean, I'm glad you are. I really wasn't anticipating you being in this state. Not to sound rude or anything.
I didn't expect to ever see you again either. I wanted you to be free of all of this, to be free of me and my poor choices and my mistakes. I wanted you to go and chase a dream of your own and just forget about me.
Well, I did, and you did provide. I can't even imagine my life, what it would be like right now. I'd probably still be with the traveling theater, who knows? But I've traveled the world, I've traveled planes, I've done so many things that I had only read in storybooks, and it's because of you.
He kind of makes a dismissive noise through his nose. You don't need to sugarcoat this.
Well, it's not all sugar, though. As you said, it did come with a price. But weighing everything that's happened and everything that might happen, the things that I still have yet to do, I would say that it has been worth it. And I'll put the box on the floor and I'll just give him a big hug.
Lanis sets the box aside and then leans forward and wraps her arms around the older man. He stiffens for a second and then, almost afraid to touch her, he just puts his head down onto her shoulders. And Lanis, you can hear him start to weep quietly. His body shakes for a second with a sob.
Father, I understand your initial hatred for me. I understand the things that you did to get Mother back. I understand all of that. It's okay.
He pulls his head back. I don't hate you, boy. I hate myself. It's my fault he's gone. I thought I would be strong enough after I pulled myself out of the initial terror and despair of what I had done. We traveled because I was hoping we could catch that merchant, find her somewhere on the road, make her give Laura back. But it was all in vain. As much as we moved up and down the Sword Coast, I never found any trace of her or anyone like her. I didn't know what to do. It was a fool's errand. And I didn't want you to be saddled with a fool for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I understand your choices that you've made. For all we know, there might be a chance to get her back. You said the blade was in place of her. She was gone. Recently, I heard the blade, like I told you, speaking in a woman's voice. I didn't recognize the voice, of course. I don't know what my mother sounds like, but there might be a very small chance that she could come back. She's got to hope.
Don't give me hope.
You just want to... Do you just want to rot here in this wooden shell?
It's what I deserve.
Having these strangers come to your door for this stuff that you pay for and sell, and
It's simple. It lets me escape.
are
It
you
doesn't-
happy?
He pulls back away and out of her arms. I haven't been happy since the day I had the drink with that woman. I haven't been happy, and I don't deserve happiness. Lank. I did the most horrible thing anyone can do to another. Carelessly. Why should I be happy?
Because you made the choices that you made for your child to have a better life, and in that you succeeded.
I am proud that despite the adversity that I thrust upon you, that you have become something greater than I could ever have imagined. He looks at your face where the tattoos are. He looks at the arm that you showed him before where your scars were or are. He looks back to you, and I feel you've probably paid high prices for what you've achieved.
I've paid my share of prices, but I chose them. The initial price was put on me, yes, by you. But I learned that I could have cut off the deal, but I chose to stay with it. I chose to stay and receive more gifts that were added to the one that you gave me. So all of this is mine. It's not yours. It's things that I had to pay for my decisions.
I pay for my decision with this. And he looks around the hovel, and he looks down at the drugs, and he looks back to you. At least here, it do no harm.
Have you ever been to Baldur's Gate? Been to a big city?
He shakes his head. No.
I have a home in Baldur's Gate. This is where we all live. Me and the rest of my friends here, plus others. I wanted to, I would have to discuss it with the others, but maybe you could live somewhere nearby, or could set you up with a home in the city where you have everything available to you. Just an option.
He leans back in the chair, putting his back and the back of his head against the wall behind him, and he watches her. And there's just the slightest curl of his lips. Give me a persuasion check. The curl is a smile, just the barest hint of one. And he muses, "You would want me back in your life after all of this."
Yes, I barely know you. Imagine the stories that you could tell me and I could tell you. It's been 7 years, 7 formative years for me. I mean, they're all here in your journal. I've written it down.
He looks at the journal, then maybe someday soon.
I have things to take care of, but if you want, we can come back.
Yeah, time. I need time to think about this. He glances again at the journal and then asks, "Would you leave that so I can read it?"
Yeah. I would like you to.
He smiles a little bit. You look so much like her.
I want you to meet my friends here. And I'll put my arm around his shoulder and mildly coax him out of that room.
Well, he allows himself to be led, kind of giving a glance back at the box on the floor where you left it. And then the rest of you see Lanis enter back from the section of the room that is the section of the hall that is the kitchen.
Circulus Vitae, I haven't given proper introductions. This is my father, Tan. And I'll introduce each one of Circulus Vitae.
He nods a little bit and says, "It is strange to hear that name again. I haven't used it in so many years. But I thank you for taking care of my son." He stops and looks at his daughter. Child.
Would you prefer we use another name?
Everyone around here knows me as Jason.
Well, we're not from around here. But if you'd
Oh.
rather use Jason.
It may be safer if any neighbors were to come and see. I know some will have been waiting on the visit from the merchant. So, you are all a group of troubadours? Or thespians?
Well, we've had some in our group before.
He looks over at Athelion and the elaborate jacket and hat with the feathers. Oh, I simply thought the Lank left with group of actors. And he
No,
kind of
I'm
looks at
part of
Azariel and his bare chest and the tattoos on it, and of course Leonidas and Amarin wearing heavy armor. He kind of reconsiders. Those aren't props, are they?
No.
So, mercenaries?
Freedom fighters.
Something like that. Yes.
Adventurers. Protectors.
I fight stuff.
She fights stuff.
We point at things and she slashes them.
For gold.
I see. Well, I'm hoping that won't be necessary here.
Hopefully not.
But you can never be too sure when wizards of Thay are in the equation.
Wizards?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
you don't know who you're dealing with.
You mean Aldrich?
Is a red wizard of Thay.
Aldrich and Thea.
No.
I think you're in a little over your head. A little more than you thought you were.
Why would the Wizards of Thay be dealing petty drugs to minor criminals?
Excellent.
No offense, sir.
He kind of looks taken aback for a second, being referred to as a criminal, but then kind of accepts it And he, I, I had no idea. I'd just known them as merchants.
They are extremely dangerous. We've encountered them more than once.
How do you know that they're wizards?
They did a real stupid job of hiding themselves. I saw right through their costumes and makeup.
There's some sort of marking or...
Yeah, they have
Tattoos.
tattoos.
Had no idea.
I assume they didn't expect any recognition or trouble from people around here. Didn't go through great lengths to hide themselves.
I mean, no one questions merchants traveling the road to Prosker, and no one asks questions about the sort of merchandise that they trade in.
Perhaps it'd be best if you weren't here when they come back this way.
Why,
I
did
hope
you
we
do
haven't
something to
endangered
upset
you.
them?
Just our presence here. Who knows? I didn't even think about that.
You gave them the money, yes?
Yes, I gave them... Yes.
So they have no reason to be upset.
I don't know if maybe they recognized us. I didn't recognize those two. They have eyes and ears in a lot of places.
And I would characterize their demeanor as suspicious.
Well, they
when
are
They left.
selling drugs. I have to imagine that strangers being here on my porch wasn't exactly what Aldrich was looking for. I'm pretty sure that he picked me as his local source because, well, and he looks down at himself. I'm harmless.
Oh yeah, you are harmless, but next time they come here, they might be expecting us again, and we didn't put on much of a friendly front.
If you don't mind my asking, do you have any other means to support yourself out here?
No. I mean, I'm not a farmer. I never have been. I managed to eke out a few vegetables in the garden. I don't have a job. I have no horse to travel.
Well, what did you do before this arrangement?
He kind of looks around and says, I kind of happened into this place. I mostly wandered from place to place. I've been here a few years now.
If I could be a little more blunt, do you have any skills?
Tinker a little bit. I've known to do a little bit of fletching. I could play passably on the flute. I mostly wandered and told stories badly from tavern to tavern. Doesn't cost much but a few coppers. Find a safe place in a stable, the side of the road. The occasional tavern, an ale here or there. It's hard on the body, but I wasn't really looking for easy.
Would you allow me, if I were able to maybe ease some of your pain, as it were, would you allow me to help you? I'm a bit of a healer.
She's good at what she does.
Looks at you for a second. Says, my pain is not hardship. My pain is not physical. It's memories. And I can escape those well enough with some help.
So, if you're escaping, I know it's not terribly simple, and sometimes injuries inside are more challenging. But correct me if I'm wrong, the thing you were escaping and the thing that you were feeling so bad about is right here. I mean, I know it's not everything, but do you still want to escape if you have an opportunity to get to know Lanis?
He looks back and forth between Quinn and Lanis. Don't know if I deserve to.
That's not the point. Whether you deserve to or not, would you like that? Would that be something you would rather do than self-imposed penance in this hut with questionable people coming to your door?
He thinks about it for a moment and then says, I don't know if I'm capable of uprooting myself. This is all I've known for years now. He looks at Lanis and says, I'm very, very happy to know that you've managed to find a path through what I thrust upon you. I also feel like you're in the middle of that journey. Perhaps when you find the end of it, we can both find the space to talk about our paths together and see what comes next.
I would really like that. Something to look forward to.
He nods a little. You said you reside in Baldur's Gate now.
Yes.
That's a long journey.
We have ways of traveling much quicker than on foot or even on a horse or even by air.
His eyes kind of widen for just a little bit for a moment, and then he...
Traveling is not the issue.
Oh, it may be for me. He nods a little. Leave me your address. I will either travel to Proskar proper and send a message by post, or who knows, maybe buy a horse and find myself the way to the coast. But you know where I am now, and I would not be saddened if you were to come again to visit.
Like that a lot.
Quinn's gonna go outside. It's really stuffy in that little hut. And scope out, are there any trees nearby big enough for walking?
Not here, but I mean, the closest wood was, proper wood was back in the direction of where you left the airship. It's about an hour away. But anyway, with it, you could find, I would say, yeah, this area is pretty decent. Like right now, his homestead is in the middle of kind of the lowland farm areas. There aren't a lot of really big trees there, but I'd say you'd probably find one within a mile.
Quinn will take flight and just identify the nearest usable tree.
Yeah.
Or two. Pick one as a backup in case someone gets industrious and chops it down.
Sure. Yeah, most of this area has been cleared for farmland, but there are a handful of small. That's why you have to go out a decent amount of distance.
Yeah.
But you don't have too much of a problem getting out. You follow the road for a while, and there's actually a small copse of woods that is off the road. It looks like it's actually a bit of a circle that was left as a windbreak for wagons and people who were either traveling down the road to Prosker as a stop that is for camp. And there's a large elm there that is absolutely suitable. That'll take Quinn just a little while to find and come back. But in the meantime, Tan places a hand on Lanis's arm, giving it a slight squeeze, and says, "I hope that you can find yourself free of this thing. And I hope you'll come back and tell me when you do."
I believe that I'm on the right path, especially with these friends of mine. We've gone to Hells and back. They followed me there.
Well, and they're
I've got stories to tell you.
They're either the most foolish of people or the greatest of friends. Perhaps both.
Yeah, I would say both. But I'll take the journal and I don't know. Is there people go by addresses?
Yeah, you an address in Baldur's Gate.
Okay. Yeah, I'll write that down in the journal for him.
1493 Drive, Baldur's Gate.
Take a ride at the Big Oak.
It's generally the city district area, and then the street that you may be on. They don't have numbers; they tend to have names. Like that's what Godswind Manor. Once you tell someone, the district, then that is how they would find the house. Which is why renaming it is challenging, because it often will screw up people's navigation and ability to deliver things. Their postal system, as it were, is messenger based and not very advanced with the mail sorting.
I'm going to. Sorry, what are you going to say?
You good?
I'm going to take out my flute, kind of twirl it in my fingers, and say, "Father, make sure your flute is nice and worn for the next time we meet. We shall play a duet. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree."
Looks around and says, "I'll have to find it. It's been a while."
And go ahead.
You stay as safe as you're able. I wish you luck.
And I wish you the best. And I'll hug him again, and I'll hold him there.
He pauses and then slowly kind of puts his arms around her back, and it's very tentative and uncomfortable for him, but after a moment it just pauses, and there's a tense but calm and accepting moment.
Father, when you get the courage to open the journal and read what I wrote in its pages and pages, please bear in mind that I was in a different mindset. Might be some things that I wrote that you might not be happy with, but now you know that things have changed with me, so.
He snorts a little bit. I would
Some
be
morning.
surprised if half of this was nothing but curses of my name.
Maybe a page or two.
It's all right. I deserved it.
I'll just sigh.
Hmm.
Well, until our
That-
paths meet again.
Be safe, Thank.
To Father.
Master
No.
Jasmine, might I ask you a question before we part ways?
Of course.
Is there anything you can tell us? Maybe anything you remember? Perhaps something unusual about the merchant that you believe took your wife in exchange for this diabolical dagger?
He kind of winces a moment and then says, "She was very beautiful. I'm not embarrassed to say that it was part of the reason why I accepted her invitation to drink. Even though Laura was the most beautiful woman in the village, and I had her to myself, it was a gorgeous, obviously wealthy merchant invited me to her table. How could I say no? She was dressed as any other, as you would expect, very expensive clothing. She had long, flowing gold locks, a ruddy skin, very strange for that part of the Sword Coast. She smiled a lot, had eyes that twinkled like diamonds. It didn't hurt that I was drinking at the time. I remember her smile. She smiled and smiled all the while. Was there something else that you might need?
And you never encountered any trace of her in your pursuit after that night?
No, it took me a few days to get past my grief and realize what had been done. And by then, I chased down the most likely road that she may have taken, but the inns along the way, the wayposts they had seen, no one matching her description, almost as if she vanished into thin air.
Thank you. I know it can't be easy to speak of such things.
I've had a long while to be comfortable with my grief. What's a little bit more?
It was a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Stetson, father of Tanis.
Oh, and all of you, I hope that you will keep my child safe. I thank you for being the sort of friends who will go to hell for them. I don't think I've ever known anyone like that.
It's quite something.
Hell's not that bad. I mean, I don't want to go back, but
Leonidas gives Amarin a very skeptical look.
I'm
But you're
glad you found it not so unpleasing.
Yeah, that's the word I would use to describe it. But your son has also done us good turns as well. He saved my life.
That kind of debt is something that I can imagine is hard to repay.
Harder than one might think. Still working on the price. That's a tale for another time.
imagine so. And the day grows long if you wish to travel.
Before we go, did you hear the conversation that was happening out front?
No, just muffled voices. None of them were raised, so I hoped that everything went well.
You may wish to figure out where you've been for the last 10 days.
Yeah.
Looks confused for a second, and then you see the light bulb go off. He's like, "Ah, yes, of course. It's a long walk to Prosker. I have no horse, and I needed supplies." Did you mention who you were? He looks at Lanis.
I told him my first name.
But no relation to me or why you were here.
I just told them that I knew you for a long time and you trusted me with your homestead while you were gone.
I will find an interesting story to accompany that.
You're good with stories. There'll be no problem.
He purses his lips in a bit of a grimace, but nods his head. Oh. I wish you all the best of travels, and and he looks at Lanis, and hope we will see each other again soon.
That we will. Stay safe.
And, he ushers the group of you towards the door and opens it, watches as Leonidas goes to unhitch the reins of his horse, and the rest of you kind of mill about on his front lawn for a moment, and then with a kind of lingering look at Lanis, he slowly closes the door.
Wow. Lanis has to steady herself on her horse because she's like bursting into tears and all this stuff is just onto her at once.
Leonidas' mount is the only one here because his was summoned longer.
Okay, that's right.
Horses.
It's been a long time.
Yep, I know. I got you. So Lanis kind of puts a hand out against the flank of Leonidas' charger and uses that. The rest of you kind of watching that moment as your companion releases the pent-up emotion that had been held in check through the encounter with the merchants and with her father.
I'll do some huffing and puffing. I'll pick up a rock and throw it. I'll take a deep breath. I'm good.
So where to next? Do we actually have any leads from this, aside from an old memory?
So
I'll look to a cereal.
Have you decided what you want to do with this infernal weapon of yours, Lanis?
To leave it back in Hells where it belongs. I'm done with it.
I'm certain that this was gifted to your father by an infernal agent of some kind. A weapon such as this is typically crafted in a object known as a soul forge. So most likely can only be undone in a soul forge.
But what does
Hang on,
what does that mean, though?
Soul forge?
Unfortunately, that means that we may need to travel back to Lady Amarin's favorite place.
Okay, I didn't say
Monroe's?
favorite. I just said it wasn't that bad. And you know I say things all the time just to sound cool, so.
I'm certain we can find a soul forge in the Iron City.
Where's this Iron City located?
The second plane of hell.
Yeah.
Does it get worse the farther you go up, or the lower you go down?
So the second of the 9 hells, the layers go from 1 is the largest and the least. Well, they're all awful. The 9th level of the hells, the 9th of the hells, is where that's basically the seat of hellish power. So to answer your question, the higher the number, probably the worse it is.
Worse the hell.
But they all have their flavor of what is the most awful there. There are no good hells.
The second hell is known as Dis, where Dispater, the archdevil, rules from his iron tower.
Make it sound so majestic. Wait,
Yes, and is this the guy that owns my soul currently? Because if so, we need to pay him a visit.
but a
Seems to me
soul?
you have a lot of errands to run.
You are not in possession of your own soul?
Funny you should say
Well,
that.
Remember
Yeah.
Remember that price that Lanis was talking about just now? There was a price for bringing Athalion and myself back from the dead.
I see.
And so we would like to reclaim those.
I must point out that Athalion requested this in advance. Sorry, Leonidas, I know you did not.
Oh,
Did
I'm
what I
not,
thought
and,
was
I-
right.
and please don't misunderstand. I am not complaining.
I am.
Infernal bargains are not a thing easily broken.
No,
I just want to
no,
better
they're not.
understand this. Yeah, maybe I was probably high or something, maybe out of my mind, but I would like my soul back.
The plan is to get both of your souls back. Or we're gone, dead and buried. And our adventurer is done.
So we're going back to hell.
At some point.
Now back to Quinn's question. Where to now?
What else is on our agenda besides my story?
Well, if you're continuing the main quest line, the per Azariel's information, the only place that you would be able to potentially deal with the assuming the destruction, dismantling, whatever, the knowledge, more knowledge of what your weapon is and how it was made and what can be done. The other thing, Dis, as Ariel knows, is Dis is also the great arms manufacturer for all of the Blood War. The Iron City of Dis is where all of the weapons are made for the infernal hosts. So if you want to be able to find more information about that, about the Angreal, that is the most likely place, because he doesn't have any additional knowledge that would say anywhere else. Finding any kind of expert on infernal weapons here on the prime material plane, incredibly unlikely.
I guess we'll go to hell.
Do you have valuables that might be used to trade for what we need in Dis?
What kind of
Had a lot of
valuables would you
stuff.
suggest?
How, Azariel, how much do you know about the planes of hells? I know when we were
I
on
know-
Manoros, which was the third plane, they dealt with soul coins as their currency.
I'm not certain of the currency used in the second hell.
Give me a history check, Azariel. Nice, not bad. So you do know that the Iron City of Dis is unique in that it does a lot of cross-planar trade. So it's one of those things where anything can be had for a price. From your understanding, those prices could be anything from material to metaphysical to secrets to any sort of things that the merchant finds of value. And from your knowledge, the majority of the merchants there will be devils. So you can use that to flavor whatever you think. But soul coin, you've heard of soul coins before. You've never seen one in person, but they are a currency that you are aware of in the hells.
Do you have any of these soul coins, Linus?
No, we spent them all.
Quinn is digging around in her bag of holding, making small cussing noises.
Everything all right, Quinn?
I can't remember what it looked like. I think I have maybe.
What are you looking for?
I grabbed some stuff when we were on the third plane. And
I have
Oh,
some
yes.
of those.
I think I'd be in here.
And as Ariel tells you guys what Scott just told me about this being well-traveled planar destination, so there's probably a lot of things that, you know, might be considered valuable there. From what I've seen, you seem to have a bottomless supply of gold.
We could fill one of my demi-planes or two with materials, goods, gold, and treasures and whatever, and I can access it from anywhere.
That may not be a bad idea.
Soul crystals. And Quinn pulls two soul crystals out of her bag. This
The
one
ones that you
is Kreen Eisenhorn. And this one is Aratar Volt. No idea who they are. Or if they're in here. Or she
Azariel.
passed one to
Go ahead.
forgotten his name. The new
Azariel.
guy. Azariel.
So as Quinn hands you one of these crystals, she's basically just admitted to you she's got the souls of two people trapped in these things.
So Azariel knows what these are?
Conceptually, yes. She said they were soul crystals, and she gave them names, which, as you see the kind of strange color, they're slightly different colors. I believe the Aratar Volt one was kind of a bluish black, and the other one was kind of a creamy gold, if I remember correctly, but I could entirely be wrong. This was over a year ago. You can see as they throw on, like, this has all the markings of basically trapped souls in whatever arcane prisons she's holding.
Lady Quinn, why do you possess the imprisoned souls?
I didn't imprison them. When we went to hell the first time, we spotted these in kind of I think it was a shop, And on our way out, I snagged them because I thought, well, maybe we can learn more about them. And I didn't really know a lot about them. If they have someone's soul in them, maybe we can find out about those people, maybe free them, or, I mean, depending on necessity, trade them. I mean, they were already trapped. But yeah, we have these. I don't know if that's a viable currency or if
It
you know of
probably is
way
if
to free.
one was willing to participate in the trade of sentient souls.
I don't know who they are. They could be bad people.
I'm with him on this one.
Okay, well then, while we're there, we should still bring these along, and if this soul forge maybe can let them loose.
Would Ariel know anything about how you would free a soul from a soul crystal?
Give me an Arcana check.
And is a soul forge like literal? If we're trying to undo the bond between Lanis and the sword was attached to Lanis with the forging of a soul, does that mean your mom is in your sword? Or is it your soul that's stuck in there?
No, I'm pretty sure it's Mother's because it seems like she was the cost of forging the sword. I really don't know.
Well, you've had your mother with you this whole time. I'm sorry, was that awkward?
Now that I think about it,
You've always had courage, Lion. To answer your question, Azariel, you looking them over, there are arcane symbols that are etched into the crystal around the base of it, and as you hold the one in your hand, like you hold the blackish blue one she handed to you, the one that said the name Aratar Volt, you feel a sentience in it. You also know enough from the arcane symbols that you would need to know the right incantation to release it. Doing it incorrectly would more than likely destroy, if you were able to destroy the bindings without doing it properly, or just cast a dispel on it, you would probably kill whatever's is inside. If whatever's in there is living, it looks to be, this assumption is that there's something sentient there, but this is all assumption based, just theory. This is arcane theory. So yeah, this was Quinn. You picked this up at the Exquisite Tithe, which was the place in the merchants district where you basically killed all of the owners and the chain devils there, and raided the back where you were going to get the soul of the Arrhenius, her mate.
Yes. So yeah, we have these. So that might just be another errand while we're down there. But yeah, we can load up. I mean, do they take gold down there? Is that of any value?
I mean,
I think we need to learn more about the second level and possibly its layout before we go.
I think Azariel said that pretty much anything goes as far as currency. Depends
Yes,
on
but
what.
a piece of gold is less valuable to a starving man. Food has way more impact. So, yeah, we can bring gold, but if our currency exchange is awful, we could have all the gold that we have in that room, and it still may not be enough.
Quinn, give me an
Well,
insight check.
Okie dokie.
Okay. Handling these things, and as Azariel hands the one back to you, like these soul crystals, the two that you pulled, there were only 3 of them in that back room, and they were secured. They're obviously very valuable to devils, whatever they are, whatever the unit of change. If the coins that are, lesser souls are of, significant worth, these things must be incredibly valuable for him to have protected it the way he did. So
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
just common adventurer 101 there.
yes, and I'd already kind of reached that, but Leonidas has already poo-pooed that idea of using them as actual currency. And Quinn has a lot of respect for Leonidas, so unless he's just not around, that's probably not going to be an option.
Yes, but they were all bad.
They were probably bad or tied into something bad or made a bad deal. Quinn's not the one who turned them into currency. Someone else did.
The problem is we don't know.
Well, and we can try and release them, but we may be releasing very bad people.
Unless there's
Currency
a way
it is.
Unless there's a way to contact them and vet them. So this is your parole interview?
Well, I mean, maybe we could find a medium, or
I suggest we pay the Iron City a visit.
Yes.
And visit. I suggest we visit the Tick-Grate, the transaction house, and see what materials might be of value for the information that we need.
Okay,
And
my
you're
question
looking at
is,
it, right? Because you seem to know more about this than everything we learned in our trip combined on our first adventure there.
Well, I am very well learned.
Azariel, you're coming with us, right?
I spend many hours in the libraries of Parua.
And you're coming with us, right?
Yes.
Of course.
Just because it seems exciting for you to read about it doesn't necessarily mean that you want to go to hell, but here's your chance.
It is.
the ultimate learning experience.
I certainly cannot rest now until I help see this weapon of evil destroyed in the soul forges of Dis.
So, speaking of Dis, how does one get there?
Well, one could use a gate spell.
Can I
Whenever you're
presume
ready.
a gate spell? Oh wow. Okay.
Well, are we ready to go straight there, or do we want to go somewhere to, I don't know, prepare, pack, rest, eat? Because last time they didn't really have a lot in the way of food for people. We might want to pack things.
We definitely want to pack. Load up some demi-planes with all sorts of stuff. The only
Who
thing...
knows? Maybe food from the material plane might be of some value in the second hell.
The only thing, if something happens to me, I'm the only one who can access those rooms.
So we'll make sure something doesn't happen to you.
Exactly. Counting on you.
So yes, I'm going to have to kind of do the same thing I did last time. Hide.
So, what are you doing?
Do we want to stop in at home first, get rested, and pack up some shit?
Yes.
Perhaps
I'd
it'd
say
be
yes.
best
Well-
to cast the gate spell from there, from a familiar place
Probably.
in the the privacy of Circulus Vitae's basement?
And the airship?
Yeah.
Oh, we have to return that.
I don't see how.
Oh,
It's
just
still
destroy it.
functional, right? It was just slow.
Yes.
It landed safely.
We should probably see if we could get that back in the air. I'd like to return it first if we could.
To the airship.
Goody two shoes over here can't just commit a little grand theft airship. Ugh.
You could tell him where it was. You know, just message Syndra, hey, we left it in a bunch of trees in Prosker.
But we
Have
were supposed
someone
to
pick it up.
destroy it, right?
Syndra is one of my few friends in Halarua. I would not wish to upset her.
Well, technically it belonged to her friend and not to her, but I mean, by association. All right, so you all are going to make your way back to the airship?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm assuming, Quinn, that you're bringing back some horses?
Yeah, I will summon horses for us.
All right, because it was about an hour's ride back to the
Yep.
ship. All right, so as Quinn quickly uses her druidic energies to summon back fey creatures that take the shape of horses that you can all mount and ride back to the airship, you begin to ride out to the main road outside of the gate of the Jason homestead and begin riding down the road. Lanis pausing for just a moment as the rest of the group travels to turn back and look, fixing the image of her father's home into her mind for a moment before turning back and following her friends. And will you take our break there? It's 9 o'clock. Why don't we return at 9:15?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Here, Circulus Vitae rides south for about a little shy of an hour to return to the copse of woods where they left the airship, making their way through the outer fringes of the forest. You eventually come to what should be a clearing, but is currently looks like a thick bit of tree, part of the forest, because of Athalian's magics. You get a sense of where it is, and Athalian, you can sense where your spell is as you grow closer. So as you near, you're going to dismiss the illusion. All right, so with Athalian does a bit of a wave of his hand, and the trees are gone, and suddenly the airship is again resting with its hull dug slightly into the ground where you left it. Again, landing it into the earth itself. It did not float the way they normally should. So a portion of the keel is actually buried in the ground.
All right. Can this thing fly?
Let's put it to the
Gwen
test.
will do what little she can with mending to see if there's like small cracks or something that she can try and bolster.
She had already tried that on the way in. She had managed to cover all the small bits that she was able to.
Okay, I thought that was just under duress in flight to keep us in the air. If
That
there's
was
anything
definitely
we can do.
That was definitely a part of it, and as you kind of give a look to it, there's some superficial damage that was done as the ship landed, some splintering and whatnot that you can
Do what she can.
quickly check through. But on the whole, this thing requires service beyond what the mending spell can provide. So, all of you climb back up the rope ladder to the deck. And who heads to the controls? Athalian.
Yep.
I think, yeah.
All right. So as the rest of you kind of come up to the main command deck, and Athalian steps behind the controls, the statue that holds the orb. He comes closer, and it begins to glow as he nears, and he puts his hand down upon it. Athalian, you feel the connection to the ship, but as you begin to kind of put your will into it, go ahead and give me an Arcana check.
I had the sound turned on. It scared me.
All right, 21. So you, kind of an old hand at this point now, put your hand upon the controls and give it the small adjustments, the motions of your fingers that command the ship to begin to lift. And there's the crystals on the side and the back begin to illuminate the way they do when a ship's under power. The back one flickers and pulses in a not comfortable looking way. And as you begin to try and give it more power, you feel the ship begin to shudder a little bit, and it doesn't lift. You can feel it begin to strain. You could force it if you want, but the gentle rising motion, which you're expecting to do, is not having the intended effect.
Well, Cinder's not going to be happy about this one. I'm sorry, I don't want to strain her any more than we have already. I don't think she's going to take off.
Is there a way we can get a message to her?
Did she?
Tell her where we
Didn't
left
she
it?
give us something? Or maybe not.
No. Does Azariel have sending? I don't remember.
I recall her saying if we couldn't return it, then we should destroy it.
You'd be
In
right
fear
about
of it getting into other people's hands.
Ah,
Right.
Such a waste.
Well, we can alternatively, I can go back, let her know where it is.
And then
Maybe
ask
bring
her
a mechanic back with me or something.
I was about to say, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah. While some of us stand watch and guard over it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wanna try that?
Just looking at it though, does it look like the kind of thing a mechanic could fix pretty quickly, or does this look like a set it on fire, let it die kind
Like,
of
could they
situation?
Bring another crystal. At the very least, we can ask her what she wants us to do with it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's not totaled, as it were, right? It's not
Okay.
wrecked, but it's definitely damaged. And I mean, Athalia might even be able to still get it off the ground as it is. He just isn't pushing it at the moment.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't like fetching a mechanic that's going to show up and be like, yeah, don't bother.
But I mean, that said, you guys have no idea what goes into the crafting of these ships. So
Yeah,
the fact that main crystal in the back is cracked.
Well, if we're thinking about destroying it anyways, then why don't we just give it a shot?
well,
See what this old girl can do.
I think Quinn's suggestion is better in terms of just have her go, ask, maybe bring somebody back to do to give it a once over, to say, yeah, she'll fly, no, she won't fly, or there's no tools here, there's no way we can repair it enough to get it in the air, and then destroy it. I'd rather not take that chance if there's a way to save it.
I'll mute.
And we're in the woods, right?
Yep, it's in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. Well, Azariel, is there any? Would you like to come with me? Is there anything a book you forgot? Bookmark? Something?
No, there's nothing I need.
All right. So, if nobody wants to come with me, I'll just go do my thing.
I mean, I'll come if you want. No, actually, I want to stay here and watch the ship.
You stay here. Good. That's
I'll go with you.
all right. Let's do this.
All right. So as the rest of the group basically uses the cabins in the ship to settle in, Quinn is going to find a tree nearby and return to the tree at Syndra's.
Yep.
Okay. And Lanis is going with.
Yes.
All right. So the rest of you head below decks and begin to, get yourself settled for the coming evening, as Quinn makes her way over to one of the trees and then, focusing her spell, pushes her hand into it, which then swirls and opens up the knothole, which turns into a glowing green portal, and she and Lanis quickly step through, appearing a moment later in Syndra's garden. You all make your way to the back door of her house and knock on it, and there's a short pause, a few moments. You knock again, and then you hear Syndra's voice, "Hello?" And then the door opens, and in a dressing gown, Syndra stands there. She's the robe that she wears is very light silk. It's very obvious she was in between changing clothes, throwing on a robe, as it were, to come answer the door. Oh, Quinn, Lanis, it's very quickly. What's going on? Is everything all right?
Well, there was this crazed pack of wyverns that kind of just, I don't know if we flew into them or they flew into us, but there was some crashing, and then some more crashing, and we can't seem to get the ship back here. It's not completely destroyed, but the crystals got damaged, and it doesn't want to lift. And we know you said if we couldn't bring it back, we should destroy it, but well, we figured we'd check to see. Do you want us to just, or is there someone you can send back with me to see if they can fix it?
Well, let me see. I may have a means to salvage this before I have to return and break bad news to my friend. Come in, sit down.
They're not our fault.
Oh, I'm
Random wyverns.
And we didn't want to push it in fear of damaging it further.
Yeah.
I understand, of course. All right, come in, make yourselves comfortable. And she lets you all into the living area, shutting the door behind. As she settles you in with a pitcher of water and some glasses, you see her turn to the side and begin to speak into space before her. Quinn, you recognize this, and Lanis as well. She's casting a sending spell, very similar to what Brig used to do to send messages a long distance. There's a few moments, and then she speaks again, and then turns back to you, like nods to herself, and turns back and says, "One of my friends, associates, Argus, is on his way here now. He will be able to. I'm assuming that you have a means to return to where you've left the ship, yes?" Excellent. He will accompany you and see the state of things, and hopefully be able to recover the damaged ship.
Cool. If I don't know how these things work, but if they have any spare crystals, they might need to bring them.
She kind of shrugs. It's honestly beyond me as well. This is not my field of expertise.
Fair enough.
So you enjoy small talk and drinks with Syndra for perhaps 30, 45, 50 minutes when there's a banging on the front door very loudly. And Syndra has, of course, also gone and put on some a robe, a more a little less showy bit of clothing, more proper for receiving guests. And she answers the door, and there's an individual who comes in with her. He is human, Hauruan. He has darker skin, like kind of a chocolate colored. His eyes are very, very dark. Like his irises are of a color almost to the same as his cornea. So it looks like he's got these giant black circles inside the whites of his eyes. He's wearing a combination of robes and heavy leathers, a pair of oversized gloves that are thrown through a loop at his belt. There's a pack on his shoulders that is almost comically large. It looks like he's ready to go camping in the mountains for a month. And then another satchel slung across his hip, which Quinn, you recognize very clearly as a bag of holding. And he has a scruff on his chin, but his head is bald, and very, very thick eyebrows. Like very wide, thick eyebrows. That kind of, between that and the dark eyes and the dark skin, really hit the whites of his eyes a very unsettling brightness. But Syndra brings him in and says, "Friends, this is Argus. He is one of the artificers who works with the airship fleet here in Haurua, and he will be discreet with," and she's kind of telling him this in aside, "he will be discreet as he assists you." And the man kind of nods and says, "I hear you crashed something."
We got run into.
Wasn't our fault.
And then the ground hit us. So nice to meet you. You look very well prepared. Shall we?
Yeah. The ground is wont to meet airships.
But the wyverns did it first, and we didn't even do anything to make them mad. There was something a little off with them. They don't.
Say no more. I'm being discreet.
Okay.
Syndra, and she smiles and nods. Argus, thank you. And he, all right, lead on.
Quinn gives Syndra her usual hug. Bye.
There are pleasantries and farewells said as Quinn leads the three of them back into the garden. Syndra sees you out the back door, and Quinn once again casts the travel spell. The three of you arrive back in the clearing where the sky ship is still settled in. The rest of your friends are either relaxing up on top deck or in the cabins below getting some rest as you come back. And as Argus steps through and the portal closes behind him, he just sort of nods a little bit to himself and then looks over and says, "Well, it doesn't look too bad. Probably salvageable."
It's a relief. We really didn't want to hurt it.
You see him wander over towards the ship. He begins to take a look. He puts a hand out and runs it along the side of the crystal, and then kind of as he starts doing a perimeter, he's running his hand along the hull, looking it up and down, closing his eyes and pausing here and there, and does a full circuit of the ship. Says, "Yeah, she'll fly."
What kind of time frame are we looking at here? Is this something that we should hang out and make sure you're safe while you work on this? Or is this going to be like a month of work and we need to leave you here so you can fly it back? What do we do?
Looks at you and says, "I have the suspicion that you've got things to be about. I can fly her home. And woe betide the traveler who decides to peek in and give me trouble."
Okay. That works. All right, don't get hurt.
For your help, Argus.
Yeah. I don't mind having Syndra owe me a favor.
Oh boy.
If a few days in the air and a quick trip home in luxury is the cost of a favor from Miss Sylvain, well, I'll happily pay it.
Thank you very, very, very much.
Mistra be with you.
Yeah, that.
And Lathander be with you.
And you see him walk over to where the main crystal is, and he takes the pack off his back and drops it down to the ground and flips it open, picks the gloves up out of his hand, starts pulling them onto his hands, and they are comically large, like gauntlets of leather with inlaid runes in them. And you see him go to the crystal. He pulls a strange device from his bag, which looks like those series of drafting tools that architects use, where they're like a frame of things with the pencils so that you can move them at different angles and whatnot. They've got the fixed points. Like, he takes one of those, which looks like that, but on steroids, with a series of small brass pins, and he puts it up against the crystal and begins to adjust it and move it and, settle into his work, doing things that you can't quite understand.
Azariel's watching very closely and asking him lots of minute questions about the minutia of what he's doing.
Oh, he shoos you away in the first 30 seconds. He's used to other wizards being nosy. There's nothing but there's not even a bit of consideration there. It's like, you fuck off.
Shall we away?
We should let us be away.
All right.
Let us.
I can tree stride us back to the house. Well, not tree stride. Transport via
Plants.
Tree stride sounds so much cooler, even though it's a lesser spell.
It does.
Yep.
All right. Well, Quinn then, once again, after collecting the group, casts her magics upon the nearby tree, this time transporting the group home. A lot of you arrive back in the yard through the oak, standing in the back of the manor house on the lawn. You all file through quickly, one after the other. Zariel once again teleported around the world outside of Helrua.
I think I've seen more of the world in the last 2 days than in the last 200 years.
Didn't you say you never left Helrua?
Well, since Helrua left the material plane about 100 years ago.
Fair enough.
I was 50 years old before that happened.
I bet you have some stories. Or
Are
maybe
we
not.
late in the evening at this point?
It's getting close to evening. It's around dinner time. The sun is beginning to descend. You were much further west than you were a moment ago.
We have the best timing, but Constance must hate us because we show up usually right at dinner time. No announcement, no nothing.
Where's dinner?
So what are you up to?
Provisions. And
Eating, packing.
yep.
All right. So you're basically going to spend the evening just gathering
Bathing.
supplies, getting yourself taken care of. So basically, you're going to be planning on leaving in the morning
Yes.
after a night's rest. So I guess the thing I'm interested in, if there's anything specific you're trying to accomplish tonight, and what you may or may not be doing outside of the norm in terms of packing and preparing.
Well, tonight I would be creating the demi-plane room, pack all our stuff in, because that requires, I think, a long rest to renew.
Okay. What are you putting in the demi-plane, I guess, is the question. Like, what materials, what supplies, what do you have on hand that you're going to be putting in there? And don't you currently already have the demi-plane stained with the remains of the ice dragons?
Yes, I have that one.
You can only maintain one, right? Or can you have multiple?
I can have as infinite number of them, but I can only call one at a time.
Okay.
And it only lasts for an hour.
It only lasts for an hour.
Yeah.
Okay, so everything that was... So all the rest of those dragons' remains are gone now?
Well, we tested it before. We put a chair in it, we let it expire, and then when he called it later, The chair was still there.
Yeah, I have one with it's made of wood with the
Any objects remain trapped there, yeah.
chalice of Chikagare on a bar stool with the 17 small statues.
Yeah. And you created a theater as well.
Yeah, and I have a third one with the dragon hide and the loot from the lair. Dragon's lair.
Sounds good. So you're creating another one? Or you're good with the ones that are there?
Or we can just stash more stuff into the one with the loot from the dragon's lair.
So, are we drawing from our tunnel stash? Are we adding more to that
I
pile, or
don't-
do we have what we need there? Or
What do you guys think we need? I mean, it could be anything, right?
no idea.
Pastries might be something that they want over there,
I mean, who doesn't love pastry?
right?
I mean, if you live in hell, what would you consider a luxury? Aside from maybe fresh air, but maybe they don't like that kind of thing.
They certainly didn't in Minoros. I mean, they were pretty adamant on the soul coins.
I mean, bring them flowers, but they'd only die.
Or maybe they would like
what's
dead
enough?
flowers.
Not everyone there is a devil. There'll be lots of extraplanar entities there to trade and travel and whatnot.
Hmm.
I think a variety of things is probably best. Like the
And we'll have
treasure,
the-
who knows, the dragon skins might be valuable to someone.
Yeah, the
We'll
dragon.
have the bag of holding with us.
And this is out of character, but don't we have a lot of platinum?
We do
Like
have,
Azariel wouldn't know this, but earlier didn't we collect a lot of platinum?
we did.
Or was it mithril? I'm thinking of, because Leonidas wanted to fashion a suit of armor out of it or something.
Yeah, we had some mithril. I think we traded that away though.
Seem to recall that myself. Or at least talking about it.
Well, what's wrong with stealing from the wealthiest devil down there and then using that to purchase what we need?
That's a possibility. Do you know a good thief?
You son of a bitch, I'm in.
It's worth a shot. Are we still going to be, well, Athelion looks over at Leonidas. Are we going to be attracting everything down there?
I will endeavor to do my best to stay inconspicuous. But you may have to do some stuff without me.
Well, I certainly like the idea of stealing from their own kind.
I'm generally, well, stealing's bad, but we can make an exception in this case.
Ooh, I got him. I got him. Yes.
That's the difference between lawful good and neutral good.
Although I'm not sure I'd like to see the inside of a prison in the second hell.
Nor do I want to necessarily charge in and make another powerful enemy. Got quite a few of those already.
What's one more?
We do have that big ass platinum statue inlaid with mithril of the goddess Shar. That might be impressive to somebody down there. And I'm certainly not putting it in my bag of holding. We could put that in one of the rooms as a just in case. I mean, it's worth a lot of
Little
gold and it looks
trinket.
impressive. I don't know how they feel about Shar down there.
Pack it, just in case.
Right, I suggest opening your door downstairs because it's in the bomb shelter area. We don't want to haul that thing. It's heavy. Pretty sure that's how we got it here in the first place.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So if
between
you have,
sorry.
sorry, Brian, if you're recording stuff that's in your rooms, if you could add that to the room, I'll remove it from the manor treasures
All right.
document. Thank you.
The statue of
The goddess Shar. There. I will paste my note in there. And you do with that what you like.
All right.
So there's a little bit of treasure transfer happening in the basement. The rest of you, Constance is of course surprised, but quickly adjusts and prepares a very hearty, very enjoyable meal for all of you all, using a bunch of her favorite spices. It has a bit of a punch, but it's one of those things where you can tell she's compensating for the short amount of time to cook with a couple of chef's tricks to punch up the flavor and the enjoyment.
I bet you we can find some cool spices down there. Maybe bring some back for her.
Infernal spices.
hot sauce.
Some Carolina Reapers down there.
Some kind of reaping going on. All right. So you all get yourselves prepared as best as possible. Was there anybody, again, one of the questions was, is anybody doing anything about their personal gear or appearance or anything before, in preparation for going tomorrow?
Yeah, Leonidas is going to cover the shield with a tarp or some canvas or something. Well, it's a regular shield. So, yeah, I'm going to find a shield that does not have the symbol of Lathander on it. If I need to go buy one, I'll go buy one.
No, actually there are ways of strapping.
Taking pains to remove any obvious outer expression of Lathander.
So tucking his holy symbol.
Holy symbol going, down beneath the armor, that kind of thing.
Leonidas, can you hear me all right? Can everybody else hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I
Scott's
hear you.
frozen on my screen, so I don't know if you
Yeah,
can.
he is too.
Froze.
There we go.
Oh.
Give him a moment to come back. 'Cause I heard him the whole time, but it was clear he wasn't hearing me. There we go. Welcome back.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No worries. So yeah, it's entirely possible for him to easily cover his shield in like some strapped leather, and if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
tuck the holy symbol into underneath his jerkin and his shirt, and but yeah, okay. So trying to make sure there's no obvious markings on him.
Yeah.
Anybody else doing anything? Yep. Can't
Sorry,
control the aura and whatnot, but
aura.
yeah. You can try and dampen it down, but
Which he'll try to do,
Okay.
as best he can.
Sounds good. Anybody else doing anything special or different?
Nope.
All right. Alrighty. Well, then the morning dawns calm and quiet. The usual sounds of the city starting to wake up around you. There is dew on the grass outside as you all wake up together and gather in the downstairs foyer area with your gear. What are you going to do?
So is this where we want to do this?
Quick question before we go, Azariel. A wizard friend that I used to have would sometimes find it handy to have spells or scrolls that they could then learn from. Is that something that you do as well? Like, I don't know how your magic works.
I'm always interested in arcane scrolls.
Alrighty. Quinn hands him the 2 spell scrolls that they pulled out of the Moonshay Horde on their first trip. One is Planar Ally, and the other is Mighty Fortress. Those might come in handy.
Thank you. These are very interesting spells. I'll have to take some time and study these more closely later.
Have at it. Enjoy.
Azariel will tuck them into his robes.
Okay, I found this on the web, where Azariel took them.
That was weird. So the portal, so there's no concern about doing the portal up here? Should we go down in the basement, or is it right here in the foyer? Okay.
I mean, the basement is typically our transportation spot.
You know, Azariel, that the portal won't last more than a minute, so...
Yeah, so we'll just...
And once we're all through, I can stop concentrating on it, right? To close it even before a minute?
Yep.
And you can get us back, right?
Of course.
Okay, just make sure we're got that covered as well.
Okay, so Lanis can't die, Azariel can't die.
I can't die.
Azariel will start to trace some arcane symbols on the floor, muttering softly magic words to himself. He reaches into his robes and pulls out a glittering diamond and places it in the center of the symbols, and says one final infernal word and opens the portal to Dis.
There's a swirling of energy around that starts at the center where the diamond is placed. And just to note, Amarin, especially you, the diamond he puts down there is enormous. It's worth easily thousands of gold. But it begins to glow for a moment in a blue, and then from that center expands almost a whirlpool-looking gate of swirling energy that Azariel now pulls he reaches down and grabs the diamond and steps out as the gate begins to form until he's standing on the side of it. And it now stands open on the ground in front of you.
Quinn knows how this works. Jump through.
Azariel just steps through.
Azariel steps, and then almost like gravity turns 90 degrees. He steps in and then sideways and down and disappears from sight into the blue.
We go again.
Athelian
Guinness will
holds
step through.
Athelian would follow, also hanging onto his hat.
All right, as one by one, the rest of Circulus Vitae step forward and vanish into the blue. You see the last of you through, I'll say Leonidas, the one who's trailing the end, looks over, and you can see Vic poking his head out of the door, his 2 little eyes kind of watching the blue, and you see him take a few hesitant steps towards the portal as you step through, and then you're all suddenly standing in a new space, very, very different from the one you just left. The portal stands behind you, a blue circle that you can look and see the ceiling. As you're looking sideways, you see the ceiling of your foyer as if the portal was open, a window into that space. The world around you is a sweaty furnace of heat that immediately presses down upon you like an oppressive weight. The sky, the ground, the mountains to the far sides, everything is in shades of black and gray and deep, deep crimson, the burning of coals. You all immediately begin breaking out in a heavy sweat. The air is a lacing of yellowish, gold, red, crimson, orange clouds that obscure sight beyond anything, perhaps 1,000 feet or more. Distances are very, very hard to make out. The mountains seem infinitely far away, but also within walking distance on either side of you. And you stand collectively on a road paved in skulls that stretches out into the distance ahead of you towards the only real obvious landmark visible, a enormous cityscape that fills the entire horizon. Structures that even at this distance look to be incredibly tall, made of bronze and brass and deep black stone, spires in jagged shapes, spines and sharp angles, barbs worked into all of the decorative structures around the different crenellations and levels of the buildings. Even at this distance, it seems many, many minutes walk ahead of you. Even at this distance, you can tell that the city is full, packed, and filling the entire view ahead of you. The Iron City of Dis dominates the entire distance. And you see a kobold snout peek around the edge of the blue and then give a yelp of surprise as the portal closes as Azariel dismisses it.
On
Welcome
our
to
side,
Dis.
is
Did
Vic?
Vic just lose his nose?
He almost lost it, but he managed to yank it back out in time.
Oh, okay, good. I was about to say, is Vic here with us?
It was close.
That's a curious kobold.
He is.
This is a pleasant change from Enoros, right? The rating cold and ice rain.
I wouldn't
So
say I've
shall
been summer
we
home here, but the buildings look
follow
quite lovely.
the gold bricked road?
I was kidding. This place is awful.
Well, we
you
didn't
all
really do
begin.
anything to disguise ourselves.
Quinn looks like one of the demon people that we encountered on our first trip. In subtle ways.
There's a lot of different options there, so can you give me something a little more specific?
So red skin, black eyes, a pair of small horns, some claws, maybe
Okay.
some hooves.
Making yourself
Something
just kind of generically demonic.
Yeah,
Okay.
just blend in.
All right. Using alter self, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other travelers nearby?
Give me a perception check. As you look out down the road in both directions, as far as the eye can see, you all seem to be alone upon the road of skulls.
Zariel will start walking towards the city.
Right? And the rest of you follow suit.
Yep.
There is the crunch of the skulls underneath your boots is uncomfortable in your ears as you all begin to walk towards the far distant city. You walk for a number of minutes and the distance doesn't seem to change. The city always a same distant horizon ahead of you. What does become clear a little after a little while's travel is a ridiculously tall structure that seems to be central to the city in the distance. You see more like when you have a haze where you see outlines and forms as opposed to detail, you see the shape of what must be a central tower or spire, the size of which is almost impossible to gauge because as you walk and minute to minute, the outline and the shape of it seems to change, as if it's not quite a living thing, but like you see it one moment and then you blink and it's a different shape and there's no sense of transition. It's just different. The architecture entirely new. But you continue to walk and sweat. It's impossible to acclimate to this heat, but you begin to just go to your water skins to try and stave off the parched throats and refresh some of the water. You walk for about an hour down the road of skulls, the crunch of them underneath your boots kind of beginning to make some of you clench your teeth. And then almost in an instant, all of a sudden you're standing on a paved iron street with the city all around you. There was no sense of movement or shift or a gait or any kind of transition. One moment you're upon the road of skulls, and the next you're standing in the center of the city. There is a bustling of forms and figures and individuals around you. Shapes and sizes, wings and hooves and horns and tails. Humanoid and non-humanoid figures populate what looks to be here almost a bazaar of stalls and shops, a central busy metropolis teeming with moving individuals, some wearing cloaks and heavy swaddled clothes, most of them some form of devil or demonic entity, a number of tieflings scattered among the batch, all of them moving and conversing or bustling through or pushing people aside. There's a growl and a swiping of a claw as one of the smaller demons is smacked down by a larger one, which almost casually obliterates its chest, leaving the bloody mass on the side, which the blood, as it scatters across the iron pavement, begins to sizzle. And that's when you all realize the heat rising off the street itself. The leather of your boots begins to grow warm.
Oh, gods.
Welcome, Circulus Vitae, to the Iron City of Dis.
I just bought these things. Damn it.
Does there seem to be some kind of external light, like a sun or something, that's casting shadows, or just?
There's a general light that kind of filters in from the sky above. There's no sense of any kind of sun or star or major light source. It's just a general overall dim, like slightly more than dim, like kind of hazy sunset red that permeates the entire city. All of the walls of the shops are stone and brass and iron, and all of them, especially at the seams and in the rivets and the connection pins, there's just a dull, warm glow that emanates from them. Everything about this city is in a constant state of almost lava-like luminescence.
This is
You all
pleasant.
stand here in the middle of what looks to be an intersection of roads, all kind of coming to spokes off this place, as if you were all of a sudden appeared in this, not really town square, but central plaza type space. A few of the nearby devils look your way. Some of the smaller ones, there's almost imp-like, like larger than an imp, but that same kind of general, kind of scrawny, weak-looking one who's has a pitchfork and is hurting a small group of larvae down a side street. The larvae being human-sized, slug-like worm creatures that you know from your last time here are the lowest of the low souls that have been condemned to the hells. And it drives them down one of the side streets as it looks over and sees you. And it kind of gets a look on its face like opportunity.
Quinn will give it her best scowl with her demon face.
Give me an intimidation check. And you're
Ooh.
bigger than it is, so use it with advantage.
Yay!
Yeah, that's enough with this. Quinn turns and growls, bearing long incisors and flaring her wings, and the imp-looking creature like immediately cows and goes back to bullying the larvae and stabs one to kind of assert its dominance over its lesser, and drives them forward further.
So did you say this was like a market area that we're in?
From your best guess, there's 4 main avenues that seem to connect here, and a couple. There's like all kinds of alleys and side streets, very complex arrangement of buildings. But a number of the places that you within sight seem to be the equivalent of shops, as far as you can tell. There are people there. There are devils and individuals coming and going from these places, so it's obviously a place of commerce. What they are and what that commerce is, you can't tell. Does anybody here speak or read Infernal?
I do.
Okay. So, Lanis, you'll be able to get the gist of some of the signage. And there's not a lot of it. But what you can tell is a lot of these places seem to be basic goods, right? They're raw materials, they're trading, they're not quite trading houses, but they are places where you can just buy simple supplies. It seems to be, if you're guessing like the entrance, however you guys arrived here, these are the most common and least valuable places of trade, right? They're low-level commodities.
I'll express that
Perhaps
to
we
the others.
could, maybe we should enter one of these shops and see if we can get directions to the trade house.
We have no idea where this place is.
Right. I think the only way we're going to be able to find it is if we can get someone to give us directions. Maybe if a merchant thinks that we're interested in their wares once we finish conducting our business, maybe he would be willing to give us directions so that we can complete our business and be back to purchase his wares. Because I got a feeling nothing, even information, is going to be free around here.
Probably right.
On how much of the information can we even trust?
Well, that's why I'm thinking if a merchant is thinking we're interested in their wares, they'll give us good information because they want us to complete our mission, complete our business, and return to conduct business.
You all continue to stand in the center of the square.
We need to
Does it seem
move.
like people are looking at us?
Give me a perception check.
probably look like tourists.
Maybe. I mean, you swear that at least half the devils in the street are looking at you,
I'm a little
casting
paranoid
you
like that.
side glances. Yeah.
Let's head towards the least threatening looking building.
All right.
The one with the least amount of spikes.
Okay, sure.
Do I see any buildings where that look like non-residents are coming and going, travelers and extraplanar types like ourselves?
So there is a building a little bit down what I'm going to use is north because you have no sense of direction, but I'm going to just orient north on this, the northern street, and there is a large, what looks to be storefront, that you see a group of tieflings exit and walk away down the street from, talking to each other. They are the closest to human that you can see in the visible area from where you're standing.
Azariel will head in that direction.
All right, so Azariel begins to stride away with a sense of purpose. The rest of you follow?
Guy just walks off. Sure.
All right. You make your way. Azariel makes his way confidently, kind of with his head held high and his shoulders squared, and makes a beeline directly for that building. He puts a hand down to open the door, and you feel your hand fizzle just a little bit. It doesn't burn you yet, but you turn the handle and pull the door open and walk inside, kind of owning it. The rest of your friends following close behind. The shop within is what looks to be it's obviously a store. It's obviously a shop of some sort. There are iron bins that are lining the walls that, from what you can tell, are filled with different kinds of rock and mineral. You're not sure what they are. Like, there's one that looks, for all the world, like a bunch of gravel, and some that look like lava rocks, and some that look like like there's some ash in a corner. Like, there's just this whole variety of these different earthy elements that are in these iron bins and containers, and pipes that come down from the ceiling in kind of long, jagged, zigzaggy things that dump into these bins. The storefront goes back. There's about maybe 10 of these things on each side of the wall. And in the center, there's this very strange brass and bronze pressure cooker-like column that dominates the center and has a number of slots in it that radiate furnace-like heat. You all kind of pile in, and it blocks the rest of the room to the back where potentially the merchant and any kind of transactional area is. You all kind of file into the store. What do you do?
Is there anybody in this area where we're at?
At the moment, no, but you hear voices past the furnace. None of you recognize what's being said, but Lanis, you can tell that they are speaking Infernal. You can't make out the words, but someone's speaking in Infernal.
Athelion is gonna cast tongues.
Okay. You become aware of the voices. You catch bits and pieces again because it's a quieter conversation that's happening back there, and there's sound and kind of a rattling, humming, clanking sound that's coming out the furnace. It's between you and the conversation, but you and Lanis both begin to catch words. It's two people are talking, and sounds like they're haggling.
Well, we came in here to talk to somebody, so Azariel will head back where the voices are coming from.
All right. As Azariel leads the group past the giant furnace and towards the back of the shop, you see, as you round the corner, At the back end of the store is a slightly raised area and a countertop that's there. Behind it is a series of sluice-like vents that are dumping into slightly
Okay.
smaller
I found this on the web for us.
Sorry.
slightly smaller containers that are coming, and it looks like it's funneling out different kinds of semi-precious stone as opposed to the raw ore and materials that's in the front of the shop. Those are behind the counter and behind what seems to be the merchant. He's um, a devil stands there. It's has a very, very pale red skin that's almost white. It looks slightly emaciated, and its wings are somewhat ragged, but it doesn't look like they're damaged. They look really rough. Its skin is covered in a number of spines and sharp pieces, and its hands are, to your eyes, abnormally clawed with hooked claws. Its head is very angular and has a pair of horns that curve back and around and up, almost like a not quite a goat, but an antelope. I guess that's the right, antelope-like, where they come back and point up. Its eyes are very large and solid black, and its tail kind of idly moves behind it in a not quite aggressive fashion, but a bit of an animated motion as it carries on a conversation with other individuals, looking down at this one who's standing on the floor, speaking up to it, has its back to you. This one is humanoid shaped and sized. It has a heavy black cloak and a hood pulled up over its head. And the two of them are speaking back and forth. As you kind of round the corner, the devil looks up, and it bares its teeth in what at first seems to be an aggressive snarl, but maybe a greeting. It's hard to tell, but it says something to the group that to the rest of you seems to be a threat. Athalion and Lanis here, I'll be with you in a moment.
I'll turn back to the group and say, that's what he said. He'll be with us in a moment.
Azariel's gonna cast tongues on himself also.
All right. You begin to cast the spell, and there's a moment where the devil's eyes lock on you and watch you, and then you get the impression it knows what you're doing, so it turns back to its customer, who still faces the devil and keeps its back to you.
I want to listen in on what their exchange, what they're talking about.
Sure. All three of you get the general gist. They seem to be wrapping up a transaction. They're haggling over price, and the price seems to be in ore. It seems to be an exchange of different kinds of ore. They're talking about poundage as opposed to any kind of coinage. So that is what's going on between them. And there's eventually a nod and an agreement, and then the hooded character nods its head and then turns away from the group and exits the other side of the furnace. And you catch a couple of you see at the catch. It seems to be human. It doesn't seem to have a tail or wings or anything along those lines, and its step, it's wearing very clearly heavy leather boots, but it's quickly lost to sight, and a moment later you hear the door close. At that point, the devil behind the counter tilts its head and looks to you. How can I help you? It says in Infernal.
Azariel just smiles and says, "Well met, shopkeep. I have need of assistance."
Yes.
I seek the trade house known as Trickate. Could you help me with directions?
It looks at you for a moment, and then its wings like pull closer to it. Its tail twitches when it says, "I'm not here to give directions to tourists."
Oh, I understand that, and wouldn't for a second expect you to provide this information absolutely free. I'd be more than willing to give you fair trade.
And what is fair in your purse? Meat.
Gold?
I have little use for ores of that type. Raw metals, rare earths, gemstones. These things have value to me.
I think we can probably reach an arrangement in that regard. I'll look at Lanis.
We most certainly can.
What
And
do
Lanis
you
will
have?
tap a pouch on her side.
Show me.
Let's see. She'll open the pouch, and out of it comes 2 bloodstones. She also has a small bag of assorted rubies and sapphires, worth 20 gold each.
It gestures to the table in front of it. Make me your offer.
I turn to Azariel. So we're trying to find a certain shop, right?
Right. The transaction house called Tick Rate has a reputation for dealing with non-devils like ourselves.
Turn to the shopkeep. So what is information worth to you?
Make your offer. And again, he indicates the top of the table between them.
I will.
You get the very clear impression that part of the reason why the platform and the table and everything is set up the way it is, because it puts him into a dominating position. So you're forced to basically look up at him and deal as a lesser. Unless you were a much bigger demon, and then you'd be looking eye to eye with him. Or a devil, rather.
I'll put 3 of the rubies on her.
How much are they worth?
20 each.
All right.
Gold.
So you put 3 rubies on top of the counter, and it looks at them and says, stones. It considers for a moment, and then it takes one of its claws and hooks the 3 rubies and pulls them back behind the counter. They disappear from sight. The trade house. Follow this road you're on for some time until you come to the plaza that screams. From there, find your way towerwards until the walls bleed. Just beyond, you will find the plaza that you seek.
Thank you for
Many
your
thanks.
Mm. Now go before my other patrons find your presence distasteful.
Understood.
As you all begin to turn, it sniffs the air twice and then makes a noise.
Can I do like an inside check to see what he was sniffing?
Sure, you can certainly try. That's a pretty good check.
Wow.
Nice.
Your eyes are very sharp, and you're able to understand what he was saying and some of the context around it. You get the sense that he was sniffing after either you or Leonidas. It's hard to tell.
Okay.
Elf paladin.
You all make your way back towards the front of the shop and open the door and exit as you all file back out into the the air is just as hot inside and outside. That furnace in there did not make things any more comfortable, and the walls radiate heat. You still can smell and feel the sizzle of your boots on the iron streets. But as you kind of exit the shop and begin to congregate, you hear a voice that comes from the side of the door and speaks in common and says, "He gave you bad directions."
Oh, really?
You turn, and the humanoid figure who's wearing the cloak is leaning up against the side of the door. The door, now you realize, this area was cracked open, and he was very obviously listening in to the conversation. The hood still obscures everything except the chin and lower part of his face, but it is what looks to be human. And he responds, "You all look a little lost."
You read us correctly. This is our first visit to the Iron City.
You don't say. And what is it that brings you here?
Our business is our own, friend. But out of curiosity, where would the directions he gave us, where would they have led us?
Well, if you had followed them exactly as he said, you would have ended up in the slavers' district. It's a common trick in these parts to send tourists such as yourselves directly into the jaws of the meat grinder, as it were. You look, he pauses for a second, capable enough to potentially handle yourself, but I guarantee that it would not been a pleasant end of your journey to this place.
Well, I thank you for the heads up, but I must wonder why you took the time to help us.
It's not often I get to see others from the prime material here. So, maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's boredom, maybe I just didn't want to see waste. Did I hear that you were looking for the tie crate?
That's correct.
Fairly clear from your pronunciation that you actually have no idea where or what the place is.
Well, I know it's a transaction house.
Well, that's a good start. He turns a little bit towards you and he pulls the hood back off of his head. And standing there is a human male. He's wearing what looks to be plate armor that has seen good wear to it. It's kind of carbon blackened through use, not enameled, but like just darkened and blackened over from usage and from probably approximation to all the heat and fire in this place. He has startlingly blue eyes and shoulder-length black hair. He looks fairly handsome and relatively young. There's a kind of a likable smile on his face, and you would have a hard time guessing his age, but you'd say either late 20s, early 30s, maybe. But he has that kind of strange, almost elven timelessness to his features. But he has no, there's no sense of elvish blood in him. He is most certainly human. As he kind of turns and has his hands on his waist, which move the cloak out of side, you can see that he's armed. He has a long sword at his side, which looks like it's both fairly well used and also pretty well made. And there is a shield that is slung just off of his side and rear by a strap across and under the cloak that goes crossbody. He looks at the group, kind of looking you over one by one, and says, "My name is Halburn, and perhaps I can keep you from dying for the next little while." And that's where
Well, that would certainly be appreciated.
And that's where we'll close things tonight.
Insight check in.
Cool.
Yeesh.